The Museum Roadshow is brought to you by 125 Apparel.
I get such a kick out of how fast technology has changed over the years, especially when it comes to television. Now you can watch the Museum Roadshow right on your cell phone. You know, it wasn't that long ago that people only got a handful of channels on their TVs, and the reception wasn't very good. The key was when cable television came to the area. That's why we're at Dixie Johnson's home to find out how she and her family established cable TV, Lakeland Cablevision in Detroit Lakes. Dixie, what was looking back at time now, looking at cable TV back then, how common was cable television?
Well, we're talking 1971, okay. And for instance, Moorhead and Fargo didn't have cable television yet when we came and started here in DL.
So you and Don, I mean, just to get this picture, you did not have connections in Detroit Lakes. You two came as outsiders to Detroit Lakes.
Yes, we were outsiders.
Because I'm so used to you being an insider over the years. But you came to Detroit Lakes in 1971 with this idea. And what was the reaction of people to bring cable TV to Detroit Lakes?
They wanted the Minneapolis channels and so forth. So, you know, channels further away than Fargo. And we said we would get them, which we figured we would. And eventually we did.
Yeah, that was no easy task.
No,
and it was no easy task starting cable television.
No.
Yeah. And what were Don's qualifications to have this pipe? It seemed like a pipe dream at that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had been engineer for the cable systems, to start the cable systems in Sterling, Rock Falls, Illinois, and Ottumwa, Iowa. And we wanted to get back to Minnesota.
Yeah, but when he went to Illinois to do that, his background didn't really connect totally, did it?
No, he had worked for Northwestern Bell.
Yeah.
But he didn't know a thing about cable television.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. So it was just a whole lot of grit.
Yep.
Yeah, and learning.
Well, and his motto, I think, made the difference, because he believed that you could do anything, but we just didn't know how to do it yet. So that was his attitude.
And he started his first business in a chicken coop?
He was young. At high school he started it, and then went into the service.
Yeah.
And when he came back from the service, he went back into the chicken coop.
And what was he doing in the chicken coop?
He was repairing radios.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the mechanical spark, the mechanical background that kind of ignited and kept on building as he learned more and more about electronics.
Well, he got out of the service in 49, and in 51 he started working for Bell Telephone.
So Ma Bell was a big part of this story.
Yes.
And he kept his day job.
Yes.
While he also did the other.
While he worked for a radio station in Bemidji in the evenings, and he didn't know anything about the radio station either, but he learned as he went along.
And meantime, you were busy raising 3 kids?
Correct.
Yeah. Garrett, Debbie, and Holly. So you had your hands full. And so here he is, he's out in Illinois, then he was in Iowa doing similar work, starting another cable TV.
We were all the whole family was there.
Okay, the whole family was there.
The whole family was moved. 3 years in Sterling Rock Falls and a year in Ottumwa, Iowa, and then back to Minnesota.
And then your background, I think, is fascinating because I was surprised.
Okay.
You grew up on the farm.
Yes, I did.
And near Fergus Falls, how close to Fergus?
Southwest of Fergus Falls, 20 miles southwest.
20 miles, so you were out in the rural area.
Yes.
But you knew how to work.
Yes, we did. My father had a bad heart. So my older brother and myself would take 2 weeks off from school in the spring and plant the fields.
I think that is a really important part of your story because I've met a number of people who have a farming background, and it's like they invent on the farm. So they don't give up when they come across a new challenge. They figure it out. And that's what you did.
Well, Don and I did.
Yeah. So Don got the idea to come to DL, and it was in your home area, not too far from where he grew up, not too far from where you grew up. And the city council said what?
Ken Freeman said, we've had two companies already come and ask for the franchise, get the franchise, and do nothing. And Don said, if you give us the franchise, we will do it. And so we got the franchise. You
got the franchise, but you didn't get the money. It was really hard to come up with the money to get this done.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, how'd you get that done?
The folks had given a quarter of land to each one of us kids. There were 6 of us in the family. And they'd given a quarter of land to each one of us. And Dad said to me, he says, I think you need the money now, not later. So we got $30,000. And that's what we had to spend on the land for the tower and the tower.
So you got the tower up on what is now called North Tower Road.
Correct.
Which is north of Detroit Lakes and on the way to Floyd Lake. But you needed a lot more than just a tower, Dixie. How'd you get the rest done?
Well, my dad wanted to talk to Arlen Stanglin to see if we could. No bank would give us money, okay, because we had no asset until we got customers. And so he and I, Dad and I, talked to Arlen Stanglin.
Then Congressman.
Yes. And it was a time when they wanted rural businesses to succeed. And so they signed for the amount we needed, and the bank, of course, took it then because they backed it.
So you got an SBA loan, a small business administration loan. And so the government, in a sense, is backing your loan so that the banker is comfortable.
Correct.
But then the farm girl kicks in because you've got to get the line from the tower to all of these people that might become your subscribers. How'd you get that done? I just love it. I love that part of the story.
Well, the cable had to go underground from where the tower was to the city limits. Okay, it had to go underground that far. Well, needless to say, we didn't have much money, so we bought a digger that was like about the size of a little garden digger, you know. And it had a
You laid the line is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I laid the line, but Garrett, my son, after school would come out and fill the trench with a hoe.
Yeah.
That's how it got done.
Because meantime, Don is making a living.
Don went to, he went to different cities in southern Minnesota and started cable down there for them. They would have the franchise, but he would engineer it for him and build them.
But you'd have the line on your pickup truck, and then you'd get that trench.
50 feet.
50 feet of trench.
Coil,
Of coil, and then put down the cable. Right. And then drive a little bit more, do the same thing all over again with that digger.
Right.
Dixie, that's unbelievable. You had dirt under your fingernails for sure.
Oh, I grew up that way.
Yeah. Next week, we'll continue our conversation with Dixie Johnson.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Museum Roadshow, brought to you by 125 Apparel.